Richardson Dickens, dope black therapist, coming to talk to you about a really important topic. I saw Tara, Taraji P Henson yesterday, and it broke my heart. She was talking about being underpaid. And for many people, when I see Taraji P Henson, I'm thinking wealthy, beautiful, successful, right? Benjamin Button. What's the other movie she's made? She made so many movies, at least twice a year. I'm seeing a movie minimum of her rolling out talking about, in character, with grace and pride and being very supportive. And I was at Essence this summer, and she talked about, being honored that she was personally invited to be part of this cast. And like many of you, my heart swelled. I mean, seeing all these African American women on camera at the same time, I was like, wow. And so when I saw that interview, there was such a stark contrast to my perception of reality and what was said. What was said that she auditioned for the role. Many of the actresses did. But bigger than that, she was thinking about retiring because she wasn't making as much money as other clinicians of other races and ethnicities. And it made me think about how often we talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and we open up the lane, right? We open it up for people of certain faiths, certain genders, certain sexualities, and then certain lanes don't get opened up wide enough. And what I know from historically is that the African American woman, historically, looking at even slavery, we were devalued compared to the African men. So the men went 4,000 and women went for 450, right? So even though we could birth the babies, we can work the land, we can work in the house, we can meet the pleasures of the masters who owned us. And then when we couldn't do that, we would shift off to a doctor who was the first gynecologist. And then he would experiment us on us pregnant, opening our bellies up, looking how the development was. And then he would write it down. And he became the father of gynecology. Black women haven't always been valued by the way we're treated, by the way that we're dressed. And then it comes up in pay. So there's an illusion that there's equality and equity, but in certain areas, mm-mm. And I'd be curious to know what other people may have thought about it. I know that when I saw it, I was just shocked and saddened because what she said was, "I'm in the I'm in a sea of queens and kings, and when I leave this earth, I didn't make it better for the ones that come behind me." And our goal as people of color, or just as people, as elders, is to open a door that was closed to us. So when I look at like someone like a Sidney Poitier, open the door for Denzel Washington, and a Denzel Washington opened the door for his son and other actors, right? We're celebrating the 50th year of hip hop, right? And Coogee Rap and some other founders, right? Sugar Hill opened the doors for Nas X. Every generation opens a door, and when that door opens, it's supposed to widen like a freeway so that everyone who travels on that freeway has equity, has equal access to money, opportunities, wealth, happiness. But what happens instead is that there are still some communities who have to work twice as hard to get half of what they deserve. And if that resonates with you, right, I just want you to put it in the chat. Because working twice as hard has a weathering effect. That means I don't see Brad Pitt in movies 3 times a year. I don't. What do you think about some other big name actresses and actors? Do you see them working as hard as this woman? Because I've seen her in drama, I've seen her in comedies. I'm always seeing her. But now I'm not seeing her at peace. And when you're not at peace, what it has like a house that's been stormed on for years and years. It's that weathering effect where you're happy, where it's a beautiful home, but it squeaks a little bit. The steps aren't as sturdy, they don't have as much bounce to them. There might be some cracks in the ceiling. And that's what happens to women of color, right? There's this thing that is part of the capitalism, right? If you work harder and harder and harder, you'll pay your dues. And then you'll get to this point where you'll be like, I can demand what I want. Because that's what we've been told as kids, right? If you study hard enough, you'll get the good grades. If you work hard enough, you'll become the manager, the foreman, and then you'll become the owner. And then we buy into it. It's the American dream. And for many people who are watching it, it brought your ancestors over here looking for that dream. My ancestors weren't brought over here looking for that dream. They were born here as part of the nightmare that became capitalism. They were here to help create the land, tend the land for the cotton and the peanuts and all the other things that were, you know, in demand. But they weren't brought here with their permission. They weren't brought here for a better life for them. They were brought here as part of an industry. They were a commodity. They weren't even half a person if you counted them in the census. But going back to Black women, sometimes we don't get seen as of value, which is why when women of color get assaulted, sometimes people don't believe us because there's a stereotype about us that we deserved it, or it's the way we're dressing, or something. And then there's sometimes we buy into some of those stereotypes, right? Because sometimes those stereotypes go all the way back. We were wild and sexual and something, right? And for some of us, we embrace it because we're realizing that the stereotype is not me. And I don't have to fight my whole life trying not to be myself. So if that is you, kudos to you. But what about the other people who get stereotyped? And as Taraji said, I have to keep proving myself. I go to the highest places, get the biggest awards, right? I'm the lead actor, and I'm still not seen as enough. I still go back to the negotiating table, trying to be enough, but being told I'm not enough because I'm not sellable, I'm not marketable. People won't accept me. They won't see me as a leader. They won't see me as being smart. So then what do? I just wait and wait my turn. And I think for her thinking was, I'm so hurt. I can't wait my turn. So I've got to build some other businesses. She's an amazing mental health organization. If you're not familiar with it, I think the organization is her father's name, but if you Google her name, Taraji P Henson, it comes up. I think it's based in DC. But then she has her hair care line, which is another stream of business. But can you imagine? You love doing what you do, but what you do, even when you're 20 years in the game, is not enough to pay your bills. It's not enough to put your baby through college. And that's the reality of what it looks like to be a woman of color, right? It's buying into the belief that if I work hard enough, if I just wait, if I let my work speak for itself, then someone will say, wow, this is a great worker. Let's just give it to her. And for a lot of us, we give pieces of us away as we're waiting for our turn. As that weathering effect starts happening, right? We start getting criticized, or the more well we do, the more work's given to us, right? We become leaders and we overperform, but we're not sure if we're getting paid the same rate as our counterparts, whether it be white female or white male, or someone else from another ethnicity. We're trusting that we're being treated fairly until we find out that we're not. And then there's a belief that, well, at least you got a job. But for many people, we just don't want to have a job. We want a life. Right? You want a life that has value, a life that has meaning, a life that makes our children proud when they see us. Many people ask me, well, Candice, why did you change your practice last year? You went from taking every insurance in the world to not taking any insurance. Right? Have you deserted your people? Do you not care for your people? Are you just like everyone else is looking for self, exploiting people during a time of crisis? And I said, this is what changed me. And it may have changed a lot of women or a lot of people. Is I remember during COVID working from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. because every client I've ever seen, and I've been a clinician since I'm 21, and right now I'm not 21, and my oldest is 22. But I have been a clinician for over 30 years, right? So I remember seeing so many people. I was seeing 50 people a week, but I wanted to be available for everyone. And then I was invited to be a member of a speaking engagement, like a panel discussion about our field. And I was so excited. I mean, I was so excited. Got my favorite dress on, hair was cute, like it is today. And I was sitting there and I was the first speaker. And they said, Candice, how do you get clients? And I said, oh, I take this insurance, and I take these EAPs. And EAPs, for some of you, is called Employee Assistance Programs. That's a benefit of your jobs. And I said, the lowest EAP pays me $30 an hour. Minimum wage, I think, is $16, $20 an hour. And I've got like 4 or 5 different certifications in trauma. And each certification has taken me 3 years to get. And I said, I speak, I train, I go to conferences, I present. And they were like, wow. I said, I'm very educated. And the highest insurance pays me about 80, 85, 1 hour. And I was really proud. And I said, they give me both. They send lots of people to me. So I'm always full. I got people on the wait list. I'm so full. And this is me proud, right? Because I'm showing my value, right? Because this is the thing we've been taught. This is part of the capitalism. Is that my value is shown in my productivity. The more productive, the more value I am, right? The more valuable I am, the more money I must be making, right? So I'm proud. I'm sharing how much I make. I'm doing really well. And there was the next speaker said, well, I don't have as many credentials as Candice, and I haven't been doing it for 30 years. I've been a licensed person for a couple of years, but my rate is like 115. I'm about to raise it to 130. Now, remember, I said the highest rate I had that time was 80. And for many of you, you're like, that's a lot of money. I know, however, when I get this color done, it is not $80 unless I buy it from CVS or Walmart. I know if I take all my family to go see Color Purple today in the evening, it's not going to be $20. It's going to be $80. I know that if I go buy anything that has value, it's not going to be $30, which is the lowest rate. My mortgage is not $30. It's not $80. It's some money. My car note's not $80. So for me to see as many people that would equal with someone who just got a degree 2 years ago, it means I would have to double the rate I was working. I was already seeing 50 people during the COVID, which means I'm not resting. I'm taking care of people, right? But what she said was, I work about 4 days a week. I work from 9 to 4. I see clients and they give me I take their credit cards and that's it. It's clean. I said, And nobody polices me, because the insurance companies can come. They can go through all your charts and they can say, oh, you're missing a date. Give us back the money. Give me back the money. Give us back the money. You're missing these 2 dates of notes and you owe us that money. And then we can report you to the board. And if your board finds out you're missing it, they can take my license. You can take away my license that I earned that I'm still paying the student loan on? Oh, no, that's crazy. So she told us about how much she made. And I was like, wait a minute, she's making more than me. So the third person had been about the same amount of age that I was in practice for about 30 years. And she said, well, I don't have as many certifications, but I'm a good clinician. We're both in DMV area. And I was like, I perked up a little bit because we're both in the same demographic area. And she said, my rate is like two something. And I was like, what? Now remember I said my lowest rate is $30. What can you buy with $30? For the Macy's, I can buy some socks. I could buy a hat. hmm What else can I buy? I can't pay my water bill with it. I can't pay food because I got some college students in here that eat a lot. Mm-mm. I can get my eyebrows done for $10. I can do that. Can't take off all of here, but I can take off my eyebrows. I could do that. But I don't know. $80? I can't pay a bill with $80 unless I work $40 to $50 a week, and that's 40 hours means working straight. Because oftentimes with clinicians, we don't eat full hours. We eat 30 minutes, and we're doing notes. Because when you leave our offices, the session's not over until I finish the note. So if I don't finish it right after you, I got 4 more hours to go to put your note in the system so that no one goes to my charts and no one takes my license. And then I'm not on the street, trying to be a 40 number dancer or whatever I might need to do, braid some, I don't know what I might need to do. My license is going. But the point I'm making is I'm at risk because there is someone policing me. So even though I have my own business, it's not my own business. When people can come into your place, like just imagine someone coming into your house and be able to police you and go through your stuff and then take some stuff away from you that you have worked hard on. Doesn't feel good. So when she said her number and said, I only work 3 days a week, I work from 8 to 4. And I'm making 6 figures and it's 2 something. And I was like, wow. So what it did for me is I then went to my other my colleagues who are all mostly African American. And I said, hey, why don't you take insurance? And they said, well, because nobody will choose us. And then I remember when we were on the panel and people were like, well, Candice seems to get a lot more referrals because you guys only work 2 or 3 days a week. And they said, yeah, but we probably get paid more than Candice. They were like, well, why won't you take insurance? And it was like they spoke in unison. And they said, I know my value. Why would I lower my value when I know my value? And when I heard that, I went back to slavery, right? Because when you don't know your value, it's because someone has taken something away from you. Your language, your history, your heritage, your ability to choose for yourself, right? Someone put you on a block where a man is worth $1,000 and you're worth $450, and you might be worth what the children are worth, right? When someone comes in the middle of the night and rapes you in front of your children, you don't have a value. When you're not allowed to read and write, it lowers your value. When you put your children and your family above you or put someone who's harmed you above you, whether you're same-sex relationship or opposite gender relationship, you lower your value. You take a job that you don't want, but you took it because of convenience. You lower your value. When you become sexualized at work, or people think you're being sexualized, they think you're being too aggressive. So then you play small so they can feel safe. You have lowered your value. So when I spoke to all of my friends, they said, I don't think I'm ready because I don't know who's going to come see me. And I was like, the same people who get their hair colored for like $200. The same people who get their nails and their feet done, who pay $100 and something. The same people who buy Nikes, who get Jordans. Same people who own BMWs. Same people who get their Hondas fixed. That's who's going to see you. The same people who during the winter will go to a really nice restaurant or the comedy club. and spend on the tickets and the food at least $80. Who wouldn't see you? So I asked 15 of my friends, and everyone said, well, maybe later on when I get older. And I'm like, look, you're in your 50s. How much older you got to be? Right? How much more do you got to do? Like Monique said, how much more do I have to accomplish in order to be enough? Which is what Taraji P Henson said, Taraji P Henson. What else do I have to do? What other award do I have to do? How more gracious do I have to be? And that is the weathering effect of being tired of waiting for your turn and realizing it's never your turn. It's never your turn. So what do? What did I do? I created a turn for myself. So for those of you who follow me, you know that I've got a YouTube channel called Dope Black Therapist. You know that I have two websites. One is for my private practice, CandiceRDickens.com, where I offer wellness, treatment like Reiki and acupressure and somatic experiencing. And I do clinical treatments, classic clinical treatments as well. But there's another part of me where I have a website called Color Trauma and Healing. And it used to be just a listing of providers, but now I revised it where it's a listing of agencies that offer free counseling for people who had international trauma. Right. So if you're from Jamaica or Haiti and you've been impacted by that war, or you've got someone in Iraq or someone someplace else that you've been impacted by the war vicariously or directly, or you've been a soldier, it allows you to identify where you can find treatment at. But domestically, I'm now collecting information from different providers in your states about, hey, if somebody wants free treatment, where do they find it at? Because a lot of us don't have the money, but some of us we'll collect the money for what's important. And if your health is important to you, you'll find money to go have tummy tuck. You'll find money to go join a gym. We'll find money to make what's important, because you have to know what your value is. And sometimes we wait for someone to give us permission to be valuable. As for deciding, I'm enough. So what did I do? Fasting forward my story. I decided to stop taking the insurance and recognizing that if I see my value, not my degrees, not my certificates, if I see my value and I honor that, then I create a standard for myself. I create a standard for my children. I break the legacy of giving myself away, of apologizing for being too big, too black, too something. I don't wait for someone to give me the Tony. I make the Tony. I look at the weathering effect and I take care of myself. I paint the house, right? Look at the boys that squeak. Instead of trying to prove to people that I'm enough, I start believing that I'm enough. And someone out there may need to hear this story, that you are enough. You don't have to compete. You already won. You just don't know that you've won. And what you've won is your freedom. Ta-da. And that freedom is priceless, because our ancestors weren't all free. And for some of us, what I realize is sometimes systemic racism is in our heads. And we don't realize that we can be free the moment I say I'm free. The moment I say I don't want to struggle, then I create a better plan. But in that plan is a plan of how I take care of me. It's a plan of how I make myself my own priority. It's the plan of knowing my value, my worth, and then demonstrating that to other people. Because as I was watching the thing with Taraji P Henson, I said, wow, wouldn't it be great if she and all the other actresses and African American men can gather together and strike, can protest, can say, let's see what the world looks like without us, right? And they might say, well, on a lot of shows, you're not there. On Friends, I think there was only one character that was there, the comedian, I forgot her name. But for a lot of big movies, Born, we're not there. Or if we are there, it's a small role, not a big role. But the time of being small is over. The time of being big and acknowledging that your ancestors played small so that you can survive. And you are the hope and the dream of the slave, of the refugee, of the person that came here wishing for a better life. So I want to invite you to look into 2024 and figure out for yourself, who do you want to be? How do you want to live? What will you do tomorrow that your ancestors couldn't do yesterday? What do you deserve and how do you prove it to yourself? Not to others. How do I prove it to myself that I deserve better? And how do I give myself that? It's been great being with you this whole year. I've learned a lot, changed a lot, grew a lot. And I hope you did too. So if you like this video and enjoy the conversation, we can keep it going online on the chatting in the chat below. And please feel free to share it with your friends, like it and subscribe. And my YouTube channel is Dope That Therapist. Have a good evening, everyone. Bye.